you for joining us for PowerTalk. It's really good to have you guys here. I think it'd be really good if we could just start from my right, just introduce yourself, what do you do, all that type of thing.
I'm Ephraim. I am a pastor here in Lewisham and also the proprietor of an independent school, which is an alternative provision for young people at risk of exclusion called TLG Lewisham.
Nice one.
Yeah, Joe McNamara, pastor, also at King's Church, our site in Downham, involved with helping out with our youth work, also involved with New Day, which is a youth event for 7,000 young people in the summer, quite involved with that as well.
Leo, from Jubilee Church, Enfield. I'm a youth pastor there, and I also work in the local secondary school doing behaviour work, so intervention work with 11 to 16-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah, cool. My name's Jerome, and I'm a youth pastor in a church called Emmanuel Gateway Church in Lewisham, and I lead a youth ministry called Fearless.
Excellent. So basically, what I want to try and get out today is the church response to the youth violence issue. We all know that there's been an increase in youth violence over the last couple of years. This year in particular, we've had 100 homicides. Many of them have been young people. But what I see around this are all people who are pastors of churches, but I know are doing some amazing work with young people in your context. But before we get into that, it'd be great just for us to have a little bit of a conversation of why we think this increase is happening. Like, what is it? I mean, some of the people who may well be watching this may be quite naive to what's going on. Some may well know a little bit more. But it'd be great from a church perspective, what do you see? And be as honest and as open as you want. So I don't know who wants to kick us off. I'm not partial, so so whoever wants to.
So the question is, why the increase?
Yeah, like, what do you think? I mean, you've been working with young people for years. I mean, what is it you think is going on? Why has it increased? Maybe that is even...
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. I think that the increase is more, it's more publicized. And so people are more aware, their perceptions of the issue is more acute at the present time. I think that this is something that's gone on generation after generation, to be fair. Different contexts, different victims, if you like, and different perpetrators. So, somebody said, you could go back to mods and rockers, punks and skinheads, you know what I mean? And so I guess there is a general sense of young people seeking identity, seeking autonomy, and often where that's not supported and facilitated in terms of them being invested in, them being supported, them being valued, them being provided for. We forget often in this situation, we're dealing with so many young people that are minors, they're under 16s, that are involved in hardcore issues of crime. And they are dependents. Who is providing for them? Who is, supporting them? Who's guiding them? And so there are so many pressures on the family. There are so many social pressures, so many cuts as far as provisions for young people, so many cuts in schools. And so we see all of these forces and factors coming to bear. We could go deeper than that and take it down to the fundamental issue of a fundamental godlessness, where people say, this is like a God-forsaken place, all of these issues happening. And it's like, hold on, it's not that God's forsaken this place, but this place has forsaken God. You know what I mean? And where people have chosen to give themselves to other ideologies, in reality, if you have an atheistic outlook that says we evolved, then life has no meaning or purpose, no matter how you slice it. And so when you're telling young people that they have their origin is random and their life has no bigger picture, and there is no one to whom they're ultimately accountable, then don't be surprised when the outcome of that is they don't value each other's lives, and they don't respond to authority.
But, and I agree with you, obviously, but it does feel that this is a bit different to what even I experienced, or many of us might have experienced when we're growing up. So, you know, we're not going to reveal everyone's ages and all that type of stuff, but definitely when I was growing up.
I'm 15, bro.
I can tell the high top is still strong. I can't get away with that anymore, man. Nah, but it feels different. I'm not saying there wasn't knife crime or violence when I grew up around South East London. I went to school around here. I grew up at a time when Stephen Lawrence was murdered, so I know what was going on. But this feels completely different to anything I've experienced, and I don't know if there is reasons for that, or maybe I'm blind. Maybe it hasn't.
Yeah, I think part of it might be is the level of, or the lack of hope. That I think there is an apparent lack of hope when we look around and we see, and I think it's gone from boys who 15, 16, 17 being stabbed and involved in this type of stuff to 11, 12, 13-year-olds. Not just boys now, but now we're moving to girls. And I think that it just feels like, whoa, for boys, maybe we could understand why it went that way, but now girls, we're seeing girls are being victims of, violent crime, and it's also being publicised. So I feel like there might be a lack of hope across our nation, and a lot of that is because of the political climate as well, in terms of how the foundations of our society seem to be eroding at a ridiculous rate. And so people, they don't have anything to claw onto in this chaos. And so I think, maybe 15, 20 years ago, some of this stuff was happening, but people still had hope that there was a brighter day, or is something else can rise up and let's focus on the next generation. But now people are actually verbalizing, this is a lost generation. Forget these guys. There's no hope for them. Move on to something else. And so I think that verbalizing of no hope has, I feel, really made the situation seem, not even seem, but is.
I think there was for me, there was a change, and you and I spoke about this before, Ben, 2011, I think when the London riots occurred. Since then, for me, there's been a noticeable change, particularly in the media attention that's been given to it, and labels like that around young people being, lost, or people kind of hyping around the issue of youth violence. And I think I think we'll all agree there's multiple. There's not one thing. There's not one. Oh, it's because of this. And I think some people sometimes they try to say that it's because of this, but it's a combination of, loads of cuts to frontline youth workers, to youth clubs, to authorities working with young people, to schools, lack of training and understanding of the issues in schools. And, I've worked in schools myself, and there's just a lack of training, lack of understanding of the young people they're working with, issues of poverty, in certain places of the country, and young people lack choices. So I think there's a combination of all these things that, have heightened it and have driven a lot of young people into that. And then social media is obviously not helped at all. A lot of young people are exposed to things they're not previously exposed to. Every issue that happens, we're aware of it. People can easily access these things. People are witnessing trauma that they've not previously ever seen. Witnessing people being stabbed or beaten up on social media. They wouldn't have seen that before. Do you know what I mean? But now they can see that, 2,000 miles away. They're not even there. Do you know what I mean? And that's affecting them. So, I think there's loads of reasons.
And I think it serves to contribute to the normalisation of the behaviour. So young people become desensitized because as it escalates and it's so easily shared and promoted and publicised through their own personal audiences. They've got their followers, they've got those people who are connected to their social networks. And so they don't even have to go through gatekeepers anymore. It's not like back in the day, if you wanted to kind of blow, you had to get on Channel U, and you know what I mean? And you kind of had to make the cut and whatever. But now everyone's a star in their own front room.
And I think that's a massive point. I mean, I won't name people, but there are people who we know who went through that lifestyle of suddenly they're on YouTube and they've got 200,000 followers and they can't walk down the high street. And everybody knows them, but they're not making the money. They haven't got the protection of like a Jay-Z or Kanye. It's not that. And people can't distinguish what's reality and what's fake. I think
that's a good. I think it's a good point. I think what you're saying is well, Ephraim, about it being generational, because you're seeing a younger generation that are looking to the older generation. So the second generation looking to the first, and they're seeing what they were doing previously or at that time, and they're thinking, okay, look, we want to be like them, but actually we want to get a bigger name than these guys. But it's not just that. It's the communities that they're in and what they're surrounded by, what they're influenced by. Because you could have a guy who's brought up in a home with both parents in a home, in a good home. Okay, the area might be, difficult area, but there's that draw of this certain lifestyle. There's a draw of wanting to belong somewhere. So if these kids want to belong somewhere, it's not gang, it's friends, it's family, it's a belonging. It's saying, okay, look, I've got some people that like me. They're getting loved and cared for by those who really we don't want to be loving and caring for. But that's where the church comes in, whereby we should be the ones who are loving and caring for these young people, show them a different way.
But here's the thing, I think that's a great point that you brought in the church. We're all pastors in different settings, but obviously you guys, including myself, we, for various reasons, whether it's our own experiences or whether it's the jobs that we've done previously, we're a little bit more clued up about what's going on. But I think we probably would all agree that average church pastor, vicar, is probably not in the position to be knowledgeable about what's going on. So, like I said, there's many people probably watching this who are thinking, okay, I'm coming to get a little bit of education about what's going on. What would we say to the church pastor? I mean, I can imagine like my mum's church pastor probably has no idea about what's going on with youth violence and stuff like that. What can we say to them? What's the type of thing we were going to be talking to? What do we expect from churches when this is all going around? What can they do?
I think Leo said something, he said a word, he said belonging. And I think we have to start when it comes to senior pastors with the things that they might understand in their own context, where we talk about church as a family and my brother and sister and all of those types of things. And I think trying to help church leaders, senior leaders understand that the same way that this setup works, some of the values that underpin this setup in terms of belonging, friendship, having a common interest, it isn't just the church that works like that, it's humanity. And so what we are seeing in terms of outside of the church in youth culture and serious youth violence and all of those things is young people finding an alternative family. And I think that's where we might have to try to start trying to get senior leaders who might not be clued up on who's the local gang in the area, who's the local, do you know what I mean? And
yeah, that's a good point. Are there kind of steps before we start talking about gang matrix and blah, you're right. Is there some way is there ideas?
Whatever area as well, I think the first thing you always want to tell them is, so I've said this before, don't believe everything they're seeing in the media, because I've met a lot of pastors who are getting all the information about youth culture and what's going on from what they're reading in the papers or seeing on the news, and it's not the full picture. So I think a big thing is, for me, is always trying to break ignorance and learn. Do you know what I mean? So just those that are willing, firstly, some of the pastors I know haven't got a clue about some of these things, but they're willing to learn. They want to have a dialogue. They want to sit down. They want to try and understand some of the issues, sit down with people, get to grip what are the real issues, what's at stake, to really see how they can have an impact as a church, how they can get involved. And then I think from there, wherever you are in the nation, you're going to have young people that are aware of these situations. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes they think it's only in the cities, but it's not. We know it's not. We know with things like county lines, we know with other things that there's going to, do you know what I mean? There's young people all over the nation.
I think it's an important point. We statistics will tell you, even though the media like to kind of have the black person, black male, balaclavaed up, listening to a particular type of music, drill, whatever, as being the problem. But we know actually that, I joke about it, but I don't know many black people in Scotland yet. That's not true, obviously there are black people in Scotland. But, in 2005, Glasgow had the highest knife crime in Europe. Yeah. So something you said earlier on about just Ephraim, how there's a deeper rooted issue. And I think there's a nihilistic. So my thing is, if violence is going on all around you, if music's becoming more violent, and computer games are becoming more violent, and TV's becoming more violent, and films are becoming more violent, then you can't expect everybody else to just be calm. Everything's going to go through the roof. So I think it's really important what you just said there, Joe, but I think it's also important to know that this isn't just a black problem. Unfortunately, in this borough, there's young white kids who I've mentored who have been murdered, and therefore it's really important we can't just pigeonhole this type of situation.
No, and two of the young people that I know personally that have been involved, connected to our church, involved in county lines, that's going outside of the borough to be involved with drug-related stuff, are two white boys, individuals from good homes, as do you know what I mean? And one of them especially, a good home, so it's more complicated than simply thinking, it's going to be a young black guy from a single-parent family. It's not that simple.
And
do you know what I mean?
Maybe that is the reason why there is a sense of increase, because now it's not discriminate. It's just literally...
Or is it though? Because my next point is that there is the flip side to that, where the statistics will show that specifically in the bigger cities, like London, there is a disproportionate amount of black children, and we have to use the word children, who are being caught up in this. So the challenge, I think, for me personally, with church leaders and anyone involved in this, it's not just a black problem, but on the other hand, there is a disproportionate amount of black lives being lost to this, and you've got to hold that tension. I suppose leading on from that, because I don't always just want to focus on the negative side of stuff, part of the reason why we've got all you guys here is because you're all doing stuff at a phenomenal rate and different things which are really helping to impact the youth violence issue. I just wonder if each of you want to just share a little bit about some of the things either you're doing now or things that you've done in the past where you can be like, you know what, we've set this up, or we're doing this currently and we're seeing a change. Because I think this is the other thing which church leaders in particular who are thinking, how do I get involved? What can I do in my community? I think this is an opportunity to share best practice. Don't be shy.
So Jubilee Church Enfield, obviously we're based in the heart of Enfield, in a cinema, but we have a good youth group that comes along on a Sunday morning specifically from like 11 to 1 of around 200 young people from the borough. And this is from all walks of life. They're coming through, not just the Christian or with the Christian family. We're getting all types of young people that come into our group. We're seeing change. We're seeing people that are caught up in different things in society, whether they're caught up in the drugs or they're kind of on the periphery of gangs. But you get the ones who are kind of been growing up in the church as well. So you get a good mix. And I think for us as a church, we offer a safe place for young people to come. I think that's important, based upon statistics. I know Ben likes statistics and everything. But the Youth Violence, the Youth Violence Commission, I think the interim report, it was talking about statistics from young people that was surveyed, saying that 16% or so said that their home wasn't a safe place for them. Their own places that they live are not safe places. And that was, when I read that, I said, whoa, this is crazy. So for me, the church, and our church specifically, I know your churches as well, offer a safe place for young people to come on a Sunday morning till the afternoon. Whatever we try and put into these young people's lives and how we pastor them will better their communities, their homes, their friendship groups, etc.
Yeah, so that's like 200 young people in Enfield engaging in your church. What type of stuff are you doing?
Yeah, it's specifically for young people, so they'll come into a screen and, we have a DJ there that, plays some songs and, clean stuff, by the way, but, songs that they can relate to. And we don't just make it like a, church service, so to speak. You come in and you're rigid and you sit down. They get to get involved in games, like we do a couple of games as well. We have a youth worship band as well. So they're seeing young people, their own age group, using their talents for the good, and that's what makes me happy, because they're seeing their own people from the same area, same type of people, but just doing real good, and the message is a gospel message. It's a gospel message of peace, love and joy, and that's what Christ taught us, and we're trying to teach them.
Jerome.
Man, yeah, it's pretty hard to follow that. So we are based in Lewisham, and for us, like, our purpose, like, in our youth ministry is to change the narrative of every young person by connecting them to the love of Jesus. And because we know that everyone's got a story, do you know what I mean? And everyone's story has loads of different factors and contributing and all those type of stuff. So that's like our heart. So one of the things that we do once a month, so we provide a space on a Friday night, very much like what Leo was saying, a safe space. Like, I'm a dad, and so family is really, like, key in my life. And I think that young people they need family. They need a place where they can belong, a place where they have adults who are positive role models. As I was talking about the cuts of youth services, and I know growing up, going to youth clubs, it was available, like, positive role models were easily available. And even if you saw him or her once a week, it was still another positive role model being able to speak into your life. And so that's what we try to create. So once a month, like, we know young people like food. We know young people don't want to pay for food. So we put on a meal every once a month, on our last Friday of every month. And it's no kind of, like, we don't do loads about the Bible. We just realize that if you get food and if you have 6 young people around a table with a leader, it's a family and conversation.
How many young people are we talking?
So usually on that night, because it's free, it's like 90 young people that we get. And it's cool because, like, we get people from the church to cook and stuff like that. And so there is this, like, multi-generational interaction that I think sometimes is missing. And that is to some extent the unique selling point of the church. That it's the one community where an 80-year-old and an 18-year-old will sit next to each other, where in a society that we live in that is increasingly polarized and is trying to drag people apart and put them in camps, the church is the one place under a common thing. And so we just realized, look, young people like food, and we play an episode of whatever is going on, Fresh Prince, Blackish, whatever, just to create that vibe of this is home.
It's brilliant.
And so that's one of the things that we do.
Wow. So it's like 300 young people that are taken care of in that corner. And, in this corner we have, so Efran, talk to us about some of the stuff you guys do.
You know what? I can't even lie. It's I work with young people has been a persistent challenge. You know what I mean? So for many years we've worked in schools, going in and delivering sessions where we use arts as a mentoring tool, and we're trying to rewrite the narrative. We're trying to reframe the thinking. We're trying to help them engage with education through means that they're into, that appeal to them, and making the connection, building the bridge. And so we've been doing that for a lot of years, and had opportunity when we got our own building about 4 years ago to partner up with an organisation called TLG, Transforming Lives for Good. And they're a national education charity who work in partnership with churches to provide services for young people. Their primary initiative is our education centres. So we've opened an education centre where we're registered with Ofsted. We're registered as an independent school. We're taking referrals from local schools, And we're saying, all right, send us those pupils that are at risk of exclusion, those pupils that you're about to send to take off your roll and send to pupil referral unit, knowing that statistically, once they hit pupil referral unit, they have increased statistical chances of going to jail or dying, or both. You know what I mean? And so we serve as an intervention whereby we want to help the young people not shipwreck their academic career. In some cases, we're able to help get them back into mainstream. In other cases, we're going to help them go on to college. And in the process, we have a family support worker. And so it means that all of the young people that we work with, we have connections with not just them, but their family, so that we're able to begin to sow into the root issues and provide support and so on, and build those relationships. And then, but that's term time. What do we do in the holidays when we see the spike in the serious youth violence? Because the young people have got nothing to do. And so we have begun to pilot a summer project where we're summer plug. Come, we will use all of the art stuff, DJing, filmmaking, MCing and production, and recording, music videos, and on t-shirt printing, all of those kind of things to say, you guys have got abilities, you guys have got talents, you guys have got potential that isn't defined by academic achievement. There's more to you than that, and it's all relevant and it's all valuable, and we want to invest in you and help you, have a sense of worth and be able to also be young people and enjoy yourselves, because so many young people don't even have that simple opportunity because they live in fear of stepping out of their door and getting stabbed. So where are the places that I can go and just be young? We teamed up with a North London church and took a bag of young people away to a youth camp. And we sat down there in the country and it was just like, whoa, just breathing deeply. And it wasn't because of the clean air, but it was just like, whoa, the freedom to be able to just be here and just have a laugh. And it's no hype. And there's no watching over both shoulders thinking who's going to switch on me or who's going to want me to go and run something for them, or just the freedom from all of that.
They went country for the country.
They went country for the country.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean? They weren't running no lines.
Okay. But what's interesting, and we'll come to Joe in a minute, but one of the things which I think is fascinating, what all three of you have said, but specifically around the school side of stuff. So we hear these terms, public health model, holistic model, taking the Glasgow model, and we've all got opinions on whether that will work, but I think what we will all agree is a joined up way of thinking. But one of the things specifically is about this whole zero exclusions thing. This is the thing which happened in Glasgow in 2005, that had zero exclusions. Now, some churches, leaders watching this, and I think it was the Archbishop of Canterbury recently said something about how church leaders and churches should engage with kind of politics and things like that. I think what you're doing, whether it's obvious or not, is that you're engaging at the very heart of what local and central government want. They want alternative provisions. And I think what's fascinating is that some churches may not think like they can get involved in that. And I think the TLG model is an amazing thing. So I think it's a really encouraging sign that churches can get right in the heart of where the problems are. Joe, you got a hard act to follow, man.
Yeah, no, these lot are, you know what, I won't even lie, because our church, I think, have recognised that we certainly ain't doing all that we can. I think we're playing catch up with how serious the issue is in our community and the call on us as a church to be involved. And I think, as a church, even now, we're discussing what more can we do to fully engage. There is a few things that we do. So Ephraim mentioned TLG. We've recently partnered with them as a church and provided them. One of the things that every church has is got the biggest volunteer network in the nation. Do you know what I mean? And so one of the things that we got quite a large church. We meet across the borough, probably across our 4 sites, probably talking about 1,500 people, so 1,600 people. So we've got people And so TLG are fantastic. We partner with them. They train some of our volunteers, and we've sent them into a local primary school to do early intervention mentoring a bag of young people to just try and, target. They've identified young people who they think will benefit from that sort of mentoring. And so we're exploring that as a church. We're piloting that this year, but we'd love to roll it out in more local schools in the area, because one of the things that we do have is a lot of people, there's a lot of volunteers that are willing to, they want to help. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people you speak to, they want to help, they just don't know how. Do you know what I mean? But if you give them, well, listen, you can do this, you can give up an hour a week to mentor. So we've started exploring that, which is going well. That's started literally as we speak. We run youth clubs, on a Friday night, youth work in Catford, and another one in Lee where we gather, again, similar 50 young people, or, each one or something like that, and we work with them, again, a safe place for them. We run youth work on Sundays. I work with a lot of young people from the church, just on the individual level. So me and my missus, we gather people to our house, working with them, do you know what I mean? Opening the Bible with them, drawing them out of their context. And these are young people that are involved in, they're right in the thick of it, do you know what I mean? So, but for me, one of the big things we're trying to do as a church now, we've seen is the mentoring, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Working with young people, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, to really, do you know what I mean? Because it's huge.
I think, again, so I like statistics. So here's one that I realised that basically recent statistics will show that there are 50,000 registered churches in the UK. I think it's like 5.1 million people who would call themselves Christians. And out of those 50,000 churches, 40,000 of them have their own church building. Yeah. So, a few of us has mentioned austerity, the closing of youth clubs. One of the things I think churches can get in their heads, a lot of these churches are not really open Monday to Friday between certain hours. You said that the church has got the biggest volunteer service. I think there's a massive opportunity for churches to get involved in being part of the solution to the austerity issue. My thing is that I just don't feel that every church leader or every church average congregation member is skilled enough to understand the issues. It's part of the reason why we're doing Power to Fight. No, but I think there's a few opportunities there, and I think probably we're coming up to a time where we're going to just close, and then we'll do a part 2. But I think what you've all said, if I'm watching this and I'm thinking, how do I engage? I think this is incredibly positive. I think this gives me hope. You said earlier on, hopelessness. But I think this gives me hope that actually the Church of Jesus, who's head of the church, it can be in the mix where we're saying we can actually be the answer to some of these societal issues. So thanks for the first part. We'll get into a little bit more detail. I'm going to dig deeper into your histories and find out some bits and pieces. But we'll get into it in part 2. Thank you.